Hi there, I'm Lindley Johnson. I'm your friendly local planetary defense officer. And by local, I mean this planet. So yeah, it is a real thing, the Planetary Defense Coordination Office. This was featured in a recent Hollywood movie, Don't Look Up, but it's based upon a real office at NASA headquarters. And I am the real Teddy Oglethorpe. All joking aside, though, I've spent a good deal of my career in the space business, working this area. Starting back 30 years ago, while I was still in the Air Force, starting work in planetary defense and dealing with this threat that is out there in space. So at NASA, when I came to NASA 20 years ago, I started setting up the program for planetary defense to find all the asteroids and comets that are in the solar system that represent a hazard of someday impacting the Earth. So what is planetary defense? That is the term that's used to encompass all the activities that are needed to, first of all, find the asteroids and comets that are out there in the solar system that can come close to Earth's orbit over time, figuring out what we can do about it, working both within the US government and with our international colleagues around the world. So NASA is very serious about this mission area, and we have organized all these activities into these 5 sectors. First, and most important, we've got to find them first. We can't do anything about them unless we first find those objects out there that could represent a threat. Now, we're looking for what we call the near-Earth objects, those that come within 30 million miles of Earth's orbit, both asteroids and comets. Now, 30 million miles sounds like a very long distance, and it is. But when you think about these asteroids are moving at about 1 million miles a day, 30 million miles is a prudent distance at which astronomers and planetary defense experts need a threshold at which we really need to be looking out for these things so that we have time to do something about them. The second major area that we support is in characterizing these objects. We've got to know more about their size. Are they big enough to actually survive impact with the Earth's atmosphere and make it all the way to the surface? Or are they so small that they will burn up in Earth's atmosphere? And also the composition, how far they will penetrate Earth's atmosphere and impact the surface depends on their composition. So we have projects that are learning more about the characteristics of these natural objects. Then we have efforts that work both within the US interagency, US government, and with our international colleagues to plan what we might do to divert an asteroid in space or be able to react to it if we don't find it soon enough and have to take a hit on the surface. Then we are working on technologies and techniques that could be used to deflect an asteroid in space. And also, again, if we're not able to do that, what needs to be done with the emergency response community to be able to protect the lives and infrastructure at whatever point it may impact. And then finally, we must be able to assess our effectiveness in all these areas. So Congress has tasked NASA with the goal of finding all near-Earth objects, asteroids and comets that are 140 meters and larger in size that could come close to Earth over time. 140 meters, that's about the size of a small football stadium. And this is called the George E. Brown Near-Earth Object Survey Goal, named after the chair of the House Science Committee who spawned the interest by Congress for protecting US citizens from this type of natural disaster. According to our studies, we estimate there are about 25,000 near-Earth asteroids, 140 meters and larger, that are out there to be found. But we've only found a little over 10,000 so far. So we're only about 40% complete with this goal after having been tasked back in 2005. At our current rate of discovery, it will take another 30 years to find this population of objects out there, and that's longer than we'd like. So what are we going to do about that? So our current ground-based capabilities are only able to look at what we call the area of opposition, the direction opposite from the sun, better known as the night sky. And so they are limited in what they can see out there in the solar system. This is a diagram of the inner solar system, static with the Earth and Venus, and all those dots represent all the hundreds of thousands of asteroids that are in near-Earth space. And of course, this all goes around counterclockwise, moving like 100,000 cars on the Beltway. But we have one capability, space-based capability now, called the Near-Earth Object Wide Area Infrared Survey Explorer, NEOWISE for short. And it has a very narrow field of view. It wasn't designed to do this mission. It's a repurposed spacecraft. And so it can only see along a very narrow line that is perpendicular to the Earth-Sun line. And so it takes it a full 6 months to be able to cover the entire sky. So we want to develop a much more capable system, which we call the NEO Surveyor, a spacecraft that is specifically designed to find the near-Earth objects. The NEO Surveyor field of regard is, as you see, much broader in space, can look much closer to the sun, and cover this population of objects, asteroids in near-Earth space, both in front of Earth in its orbit and behind the Earth in its orbit, and it covers that area in a period of a month. Over the lifetime of this spacecraft, less than about 10 years, it will then accomplish this goal of finding more than 90% of these 140 meter and larger asteroids. And also, because it operates in the infrared part of the spectrum, it can estimate the size of these objects directly from those measurements, and we don't have to spend more time with other capabilities trying to assess what the size is of these objects. So what would we do if we found an object that was on an impact trajectory with the Earth? Well, we're working on that too. NASA launched last November the Double Asteroid Redirection Test, and this is our first test of a planetary defense capability. The Double Asteroid Redirection Test, or DART mission for short, launched from Vandenberg Space Force Base last November, so it is on its way to its target, the Didymos asteroid system. Now, the DART spacecraft is a relatively small spacecraft that will impact the moon of Didymos and demonstrate this capability of a kinetic impactor to change the orbit of an asteroid. The principle for changing an orbit is you just need to change the velocity at which the object is moving just by less than 1%. And over time, that changes the orbit of the asteroid, about the primary asteroid. So DART has a companion riding along with it, a CubeSat that has been contributed by the Italian Space Agency called LuciaCube, and it will deploy LuciaCube about 10 days before the impact. LuciaCube will follow us in and take images of the impact and of the smaller asteroids, so we know more about its size and composition. So the Didymos binary asteroid system is what we call an eclipsing binary, in that the orbit of the moon is aligned with our view of it here from Earth. So Earth-based observatories can see the change in the brightness of the asteroid as the moon moves in front of and then behind it. So that changes the light curve at a very regular interval. And so that's how we are able to determine what the period of the orbit is right now for the moon. So Earth-based observatories have been observing that for many years, and we understand that quite well. And so DART will impact, and then after the impact, we will again observe the system from these ground-based observatories and see how much we have changed the orbit of Dimorphos from DART. So coming attractions, the impact will occur on the evening of September 26th, and it will be broadcast on NASA TV and other NASA social media. But for a capability like DART to be effective, we must find these objects, asteroids that could be an impact threat to the Earth, several years in advance. Luckily, an asteroid impact is an extremely rare event. And so we do have the time to find all those hazardous asteroids out there if we enhance our capabilities to find them and continue our efforts to look up. Thank you for your support for planetary defense.